So good evening. Let's call to order this regular council meeting of January 16th. It is 7:01. And just to let you know, Councillor Lamb is away. Can't hear me? Okay, they can't hear me on the outside there. Thank you, Lorraine. Okay, so, oh, there we go. I can hear it echoing back there. Councillor Lamb is away. He may be dialing in. So if he does, you'll hear Councillor Lamb or Tom Lamb has joined the meeting. And we may see him showing up on the screen up here. So just to give you a heads up. So we have an amended agenda in front of us, and I believe we're looking at doing another amendment to this. I think there's been a request to move item 10.9 up to in front of 10.1. Any other amendments? That's all? Okay. Could I have a motion to adopt the amended agenda? Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. So we have 3 delegations tonight. Our first delegation is Lorraine Reid from Rotary Club of Sunshine Coast. Please come to the table and then push the round button and your microphone will go on.
Thank you.
And then just pull the mic down a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations all of you for your election and hard work. My name is Lorraine Reid, and I'm with the Rotary Club of the Sunshine Coast Sechelt. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present a public service project possibility that we're considering by our particular club. And you know that there's 4 clubs on the Sunshine Coast. This is this new Sechelt Club. We request a variance under the sign bylaw. We wish to sell high visibility house signs to homeowners who wish to define their address clearly. Our concern is appropriately meeting the requirements of the sign bylaw 456. I guess it was developed in 2006. On page 15, section M, I think it's section 12, item M, it's written, signs shall not be covered by day glow, fluorescent, luminous, or reflective paint, or similar products. This practice is obviously not followed, as there are many house number signs contravening the bylaw. However, we wish to ask permission to ignore the present requirements. We would like to sell at a cost recovery price, high visibility signs reflective. This is a public service project. The police, fire, and ambulance state that they have difficulty on a daily basis finding homes that are not clearly signed. We have letters supporting this initiative from EHS, RCMP, and
participant exiting.
That's Tom. Go ahead.
Secondly, and this is an aside, our club is also exploring the possibility of installing AEDs and rescue tubes in appropriate places on the Sunshine Coast. We would appreciate the opportunity to discuss this initiative with the staff person that you would identify. Back to the signs. This is what they look like. There are 2 sizes. One is this size, which is 6 by 18, and there's one 6 by 12, I believe. We would put our Rotary logo on it. We would sell it to the public. We would offer installation appendages, and we would offer to help people if there was difficulty installing them. I've included the letters from the EHS, etc., and I ask your indulgence. And if you'd like any questions, feel free.
Thank you very much. Any questions from any of the councillors?
Could I ask, if you were to amend the bylaw, or you were to give us permission, how long would that take?
Good question, staff. If we amended a bylaw, how long would it take to amend a bylaw to allow this?
Your Worship, a bylaw could come forward to a council meeting for consideration of 3 readings, and if council approved the amendment that same night, it could come back to the next council meeting for adoption. In terms of staff time to prepare the bylaw in advance, that depends on the priorities of that department. If council felt that it was a higher priority, then it could be done sooner.
Okay, and I believe that we're also in the process of revising the sign bylaw for
announcing participant. Through the chair. So there are a couple of things that we can clarify. If we did it as simply an amendment there's a couple of ways to amend.
Hello?
When it falls within minor, we can do it administratively under the sign bylaw, under the procedures that were put in place.
I
that
think it's in the
addresses sign
bylaw
bylaw.
itself.
Yeah, it's in the bylaw. So you could direct us to alter that, and we could have that turned around very quickly. That is a common signage that has been used in a lot of regional districts. It makes a huge difference for emergency responders. It's something we would absolutely support. It is unfortunate that there is a one line in the sign bylaw that precludes it on address signage. So we did have discussion that we can either define it differently to allow that, but we can certainly turn around something very quickly for you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McLean?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank Rotary for doing this. I think it can really have a big safety impact. I haven't spoke to emergency response people about it, but I have spoken to my brother, who was once a pizza delivery guy, and he could speak to the challenge of it. So this will help with both pizza and life safety.
Trust you.
But what I want to speak specifically about the bylaw. Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong. There was a planning bylaw that allowed for minor amendments, or minor, sorry. Minor amendments to allow for small signs under your jurisdiction, and it didn't need to go through council for every application. So I'd encourage that. So we don't even need to go through the bylaw change, I think. I'm going off the top of my head here. And we also do need to do a full revision of the sign bylaw. This is just one of many examples how it's not serving our community. So I would encourage staff to take a larger look at the sign bylaw because there's just so many missing pieces to it right now that I know staff are aware of.
Bowen Island has this signage, and in 15 months they've sold 400. And the biggest proponents supporting it are the delivery people.
Okay, any other questions or any councillors? Councillor Lamb, are you with us? Did we lose him again? Okay, I have a couple of questions. What kind of timing are you looking at? Like if we were to move this forward, how soon would you like to get this out? What's the turnaround time on your side?
Realistically, we're still getting prices.
Okay.
We pretty much have it locked down. So we're looking at maybe in March.
Okay. So that would give us time to do what we'd need to do if we move this forward. Are you also approaching the SCRD and the town of Gibsons?
Not the town of Gibsons, but the SCRD.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that. I have been to Pender Harbor, but only as to inform them what we're doing.
Right.
I hadn't thought about Gibsons.
And what about SIGD or SIB?
No,
Okay.
but they can buy them.
Yes.
That's a good point, Darnelda, thank you.
Yes.
I will look into that, both of them.
Okay. So what I would like to see at this point is that we refer this to staff to come back and let us know, you know, what steps we could take, what our options are, timing wise, all those kinds of things. Would anybody like to make a motion on that? Yes. Yes. Go right ahead. She has wording. It's perfect.
Through the chair. So, if I may,
Yes.
a motion may be to direct staff to prepare an amendment to the sign bylaw, number 456, 2006, to modify the definitions and regulations pertaining to address sign to allow for the high visibility house signage. I don't know if it needs any direction to Rotary signage, but that would then allow us, if it can be done administratively, we will do that. If it needs to come back, we can probably turn it around for the February 6th council meeting, so it would meet your timing to come back.
Okay.
Okay?
Is there somebody who would like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, seconder? Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you could refer to the last
Yes.
piece about directing us who on staff we should be speaking to about the AED, so we can put our proposal to you.
Okay. Mr. Yates? Yeah, to the CAO, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Participant exiting.
I know that where he is, there's poor reception, and so it's coming and it's going, so I think he's trying to come in and out. So you'll hear that a bit. All right, next delegation is Mr. Russ Kachuk. I hope I said that correctly.
Hello, yes, I pronounce it Kachuk.
Kachuk?
The other hockey players have screwed that name up so many different times, and each one pronounces it different.
Okay, could I ask that you push the button on the microphone so people behind you can hear?
Thank you. Well, hello. My name is Russ Kachuk. I would like to thank the mayor and the councilors to us to present this petition. Yes, I said I didn't want to use a PowerPoint presentation, but I'd like to give out one handout to the councilors. Am I allowed? Okay.
Perhaps give one, to the media and then one to Jennifer on the end. She does, oh, you have one there? Okay. She does up the minutes. Thanks.
Thank you. That data is taken from official BC provincial records, and it is humongous. So I don't know how much, it's so easy to get all mixed up in it. The petition actually was organized by Marian Conkin, and she doesn't want to present it, so I was lucky enough to step in. I'm a heavy user of the library. I'm active in Elder College, Natural History Society here, the Art Center. I like Sechelt, and I want it to become better. This petition, which you have, calls for fair funding for the Sechelt Library. Last summer and early fall, 1,800 people signed a petition asking that the Sechelt Library be funded on a continuous basis in the same level as other Sunshine Coast libraries of Gibsons and Paul River. The lack of funds has been felt, as the library is closed Wednesday mornings and has just discontinued adult programming. BC government statistics show that for the year 2017, local government support on a per capita basis was roughly $50, $54, and $34 for Gibsons, Paul River, and Sechelt, respectively. So Sechelt's per capita funding was roughly 55% less than that of our neighboring Gibsons and Paul River libraries. Such low support means having fewer books, vacant staff positions, lack of physical and technical services. I want to emphasize the latter, technical services. I've got an iPhone in my hand, and in today's world, this smartphone is not only a phone, it's a powerful computer, camera, recording device. So you can do banking, buying, purchasing, paying bills, view any art gallery in the world, ask for more information that's available in any encyclopedia, listen to most of the music of the world, get weather information, show maps, terrains, navigation routes, record our physical body activities. You can do heartbeat, blood sugar, exercise parameters. Get an Apple Watch, you'll do an ECG. That's a, what's it? Electrocardiogram, for gosh sake. You won't have to see a doctor. You can control, monitor house security. Use it as an alarm clock, timer, access plant, mineral, bird, animal guides. I'm a birder, so I have all kinds of apps for identifying birds. Obtain travel information, record and store information.
Announcing participant.
Look at domestic and international news. Obtain ebooks through interlibrary loans. Participate in the new communication devices. LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, FaceTime. Use it as a calculator. And this is changing every day. Okay, so if you finished formal schooling, like most of us here have, and you want to learn to use all this stuff, where are you going to get it if not in this building? You go to Elder College, but we can't do it all. So, our library has to be improved, and we just need more money. There is really no reason why the adjacent libraries have nearly spent twice the amount that Sechelt does. I've tackled previous counselors over this personally. They told me, well, we don't have industry. West Vancouver doesn't have industry. And they spend 4 to 5 times what we do. Well, you're going to say, well, they're rich. Yes, they make more money, but they only make about the household income in West Vancouver is only twice that of Sechelt. This is quite a well-off area. Paul River is less than half, make less than half the money, and they spend twice the amount. Our librarian, El Archibald, and I would be pleased to answer any questions, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Any questions by councillors? Okay, so I don't have any questions. With the previous council, I actually sat on the library board. So I'm very aware of the impact of the funding that our library is receiving and the lack of sufficient funding, I would say. So, I mean, personally, I'm totally in favor of that. I know that we are looking at bringing that forward through our budget process. And at that point, council will be deliberating on that. It also has come up at the regional district. And I and others are in conversation with regional directors because they also contribute.
Yes, other councillors have mentioned that the regional district, Roberts Creek, Half Moon Bay, and especially Pender Harbor should be contributing more. And all I can say is that's a political question, and that's why we have wise councillors here and the mayor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you it's Maureen? No, what was the name of the lady who did Marion, was Marion who went around and spearheaded
Right.
this. So I want to say thank you to Marion. Thank you to the library board. Thank you to you for being here and presenting. We will take this under deliberation.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to item 3.3, Council Liaison Appointment for the Sunshine Coast Seniors Planning Table. So first, I'd like to have a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor of receipt? Thank you.
Aye.
Is there anybody who wants to speak to this? Yes, no? No? Okay. So we received a letter, and it's attached, attachment 1 to this. The seniors planning table has requested that we appoint a liaison. The issue here is the meetings typically are during the day. So I think that precludes a few of the councillors from attending. Is there anyone who would like to put their name forward as the appointed liaison for the Sunshine Coast Seniors Planning Table? Councillor McLean? Second? All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I'd be happy
You'd
to
be
serve.
happy to do that? Okay.
Yeah, seniors are a huge part of our community, and I may be the youngest person on council, but I think they're our constituents as well, so I'm hoping to learn more about the issues and serve.
All right, so motion would be that Councillor McLean be appointed as the District of Sechelt liaison for the Sunshine Coast Seniors Planning Table. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Aye.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Hello,
Nice to be
we
there.
can hear you. It's like a
Hello.
voice from on high. All right, so we'll move to proclamations. 4.1 is a proclamation, United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week, February 1st through 7th, 2019. Whereas United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week is an opportunity to raise awareness of religious intolerance, misunderstanding, or ignorance, and bring opportunity for mutual self-reflection, open-mindedness, and respect to all religions, and whereas the District of Sechelt respects the equality of rights and privileges of residents from all its diverse communities, and encourages dialogue among different faiths to enhance mutual understanding, harmony, and cooperation among its people, and whereas upholding a zero tolerance for discrimination and supporting programs and projects that inspire residents to practice and observe one's religion, individual conviction, or beliefs without fear is a priority of the municipality and community partners in Sechelt. Now, therefore, I, Darnelda Seegers, on behalf of the District of Sechelt Council, do hereby proclaim that February 1st to 7th, 2019 shall be known as United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week in the District of Sechelt. We have another proclamation, Toastmasters Month, February 2019. So whereas Toastmasters International, a non-profit educational organization, is a leader in making effective oral communication a national and international reality for all persons, and whereas Toastmasters programs help people develop skills in speaking, listening, and other vital skills that enhance leadership potential and foster understanding, and whereas there are 4 active Toastmaster clubs on the Sunshine Coast that meet regularly to continue to promote the goals, vision, mission, and core values of Toastmasters International, and whereas Toastmasters International has designated February as Toastmasters Month, now therefore I, Darnelda Seegers, on behalf of the District of Sechelt Council, do hereby proclaim that February 2019 shall be known as Toastmasters Month in the District of Sechelt. So next item, 5.1, the minutes of the regular council meeting of Wednesday, December 19th. I'll move for adoption. Moved and seconded. Any errors or omissions? All right, all those in favor of adoption? Thank you.
Aye.
All right, okay. Any business arising from the minutes? All right, so let's move on to item number 7. Nothing for item number 7, so let's move to number 8, bylaws. 8.1, Advisory Planning Commission bylaw number 578. Item 8.1, page 21. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor of receipt? Thank you. We'll turn over to Director of Planning and Development Services. Sorry, Tom, I keep forgetting about you.
No, it's fine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. The intention of this bylaw is to update the current APC bylaw that's been in place since 1997. In doing some work for our APC, I noted that it's not very clear on the mandate. It doesn't really reflect a lot of the practices that we have in place. It just didn't cover a lot of things like conflict of interest and procedures. So to bring it into alignment with both the Local Government Act legislation as well as our adopted procedures, an amended, or actually a new bylaw is in front of you. What it does in terms of a few sections in mandate, it goes into it in a little more detail to reflect that administratively we refer to APC, it's not just council that refers. And so I aligned that section with our planning procedures of what they look at. In the membership, it addresses both voting and non-voting and notes that a council member can be a liaison as a non-voting member. In the delegations and participation, this is an area that changed probably the most from the previous one. It acknowledges that, or it reflects the Section 461 of the Local Government Act that provides for the ability for the applicant to be heard. So anytime an amendment or application pertaining to a certain applicant, they have the right to be heard at APC. Any other public participation is at the call of the chair. The existing bylaw kind of had that reversed, so that's been altered. It noted in my report that APC had this referred to them for their January 10th meeting, and unfortunately that meeting was canceled. There wasn't quorum. I did ask if there were any concerns to be looked at. I didn't receive anything. I did receive a comment from a member of the public regarding section 4.2, and this is under the membership criteria, and it notes that at least 5 of the members should have professional qualifications related to city planning, that sort of thing. The comment was that might be a little too onerous to meet in the District of Sechelt, and so one option could be to change it to interest and expertise in that area, so it's not just professional qualification, or broaden it out, or it could be dropped completely. I leave that for your direction. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Okay. So we have a recommendation in front of us. Recommendation number 2. Would someone like to make that recommendation? Okay, moved and seconded that the Advisory Planning Commission bylaw number 578, 2019 be given 3 readings. Before we do that, let's look at that clause that the director talked about, 4.2. At least 5 members of the Advisory Planning Commission shall have the appropriate professional qualifications, including but not limited to community planning, architecture, landscape architecture, urban design, or sustainability. Yes, Councillor McLean.
Yeah, so that was the one thing that I flagged in my review of this bylaw. I think that's particularly onerous. I recognize that it would be great to have professional designations on our Advisory Planning Commission, but I don't think it should be a requirement. So I'd look for something that would, when we receive applications, we prefer these people, but it's not an absolute requirement. So anyone is welcome to apply, because the number one thing I want to see is people who are dedicated to this. So I'd be in favor of removing that provision fully from the bylaw.
What if it said preference will be given to Advisory Planning Commission applicants who have the appropriate professional qualification? Because it might be that we have a number of people who apply who have that qualification. If we don't, it doesn't limit us to who we can put on there.
Another option is to do that, but also it changing, rather than appropriate professional qualifications, which means you're usually credentialed, it could be interest and expertise, and that means that, you know, it doesn't necessarily, if that's an issue, but otherwise, yes, we can absolutely make any change on that.
Okay, so you said interest or expertise? So it would then read, preference shall be given to Advisory Planning Commission applicants who have interest or expertise in community planning, architecture, landscape architecture, urban design, or sustainability. Does that work for the director? It's up to us? Okay. Thank you. It is. Any comments by the council? Yes.
Thank you. I would like to add accessibility onto that.
Okay, anything else?
Is that going to cover someone like myself that has, you know, a bunch of expertise in different areas, and you know, I don't have I don't have an education, but I've got, you know, I've done a lot of work in the community, and I've done a lot of building in the community, and I know the problems that developers run into, and you know, with whatever I shouldn't, you know, the problems and ways of solving or getting through the problems as a plan, you know, as a planning commission, I guess. But that you know, that's sort of my concern. You know, like lots of times, you know, it's just good to have the guy that's had his hands in the dirt as part of these commissions.
Right, so I would say that would fall under the expertise component of this. Right, okay. So what we would look at when somebody would apply is we typically would like them to give us a bit of a resume and a background as to what their experience and their expertise is. So we would take that into account. Councillor Rowe?
Perfect.
Back to what the Director of Planning was speaking to, I would suggest leave professional qualifications in there, preference given to those with professional qualifications and or expertise in the following areas. I think interest is a bit redundant because they're already applying for it, so I think, the assumption can be made that they're interested in sitting on it. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Anything else? Good point. So do we have wording? Jennifer? Okay.
Preference shall be given to advisory planning applicants who have expertise in community planning, architecture, landscape architecture, urban design, or sustainability.
Okay.
And accessibility.
Okay, and then to address Councillor Rowe's comments, you wanted to leave in professional qualifications or expertise.
That's what I would suggest. Preference would be given to those with professional qualifications and or expertise in the following areas.
Okay. Okay, any other comments? Councillor Lamb, did you have any comments for that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
That's great.
Anybody else at the table? So we have a motion on the floor that says that the Advisory Planning Commission bylaw number 578/2019 be given 3 readings. We should probably amend that and say given 3 readings as amended. Would somebody like to make the amendment? Move the amendment. Second the amendment. All in favor of the amendment? Thank you.
Aye.
And then, so we have the amended motion in front of us. All those in favor of the motion as amended? Aye. Thank you. So let's move to the bylaw. This is on page 26. This is the District of Sechelt bylaw number 578, 2019. It's a bylaw to establish an advisory planning commission for the District of Sechelt. And who would like to move first reading as amended? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
And are we looking at doing 3 readings tonight? 3 readings, okay. So moved second reading. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And then third reading. Maybe I'd like to move third reading. Moved and seconded. Any discussion before we vote on third reading? Nothing? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move to item 10.9. We've amended the agenda. So item 10.9 is on page 192. This is a report regarding the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Rural and Northern Communities, and Financial Commitment. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
And we'll turn over to the, what are you, Director of Engineering? Or Planning? Whatever your title. Sanab, please.
Thank you, Worship. The purpose of this report is direct staff to apply to the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program, rural and northern communities, to expand the existing sanitary sewer network into sewer infill areas in West Popus Bay and West Sechelt, and upgrade the aging infrastructure. The second one is to secure the district portion, the 10% contribution matching funds as required by this grant. In 2017, actually 2016, the district applied for Clean Water Wastewater Fund, and it was success, and we got a grant nearly 2.92 million to expand the sewer for the same area but different neighborhoods. So this neighborhood identified in our 2005 sewer functional plan for West Sechelt and West Popus Bay, and also this consistent with our OCP and the sewer merged bylaw areas. So because of a lack of our funding, we apply continuously grants to expand the sewer these infill areas. So this is area West Sechelt. I can explain the proposed works. The West Popus Bay is a 27 new residential areas. Area A1, Fairway Avenue and Gale Avenue intersection, that's 3 houses over there. In area A2, remainder of phase 3 of area 2. Previously we applied, we couldn't complete that one because our funding was burn out, quickly.
Not sufficient?
Not sufficient that, because we apply and the contractor's price is doubling and triple some areas. So this one is Fairway Avenue, Gale Avenue South, Harbour Way, and Lookout Lane, that infill area. And area A03, it's a Fairway Avenue and Ripple Way. And other one is Sandpiper Extension, Heritage to halfway up. And West Sechelt, there's 84 proposed services for existing houses. Area A09 is Winter Road, between Winter Road and Oracle Road right of way. Area 10 is infill area along Bly Road, from Mills Road to Derby, Christian Road, and unnamed road B. That will benefiting for existing properties and the potential subdivision and this area. So this area is skinny lots, is from highway to Nose Bay Road, and people can't subdivide that without sewer. And so this will allow to bring the sewer that area and existing houses and Bly Road area. Area 10 is a Jasper Road. These are existing properties north of Jasper, between Jasper and Nose Bay Road. Area 11 is Derby Road. That is a highway to Nose Bay Road. and the Bly Road, Derby Road to end. In addition, so these most of the sewer West Seychelles going to two lift stations. So one is the Wakefield lift station, and past 10 years it is multiple failures and outflows to ocean, and not to designed built to modern standards, and there's no SCADA system and no wet well capacity, and it is expensive to operate that lift station, and this was recommended in the area. Our sewer functional plan actually is a 2013 upgrade, so we haven't completed that. The other one is the North Bay Highway 101 intersection. There's a very small lift station. You can see when that lift station is a little underground. There's no genset, and this is a small localized area for that intersection. But once we expand the sewer for Bly Road area, this whole sewer come to this lift station, we need to upgrade. In addition, part of the Sangara lower properties need to be drained to this lift station. So this will help for current and the future developments. There's another sewer line close to marsh, nearly 300 meters long. That is now under capacity. So once we expand the sewer West Purpose Bay, that sewer is coming through this line. So we had to upgrade that one. This is a 300 millimeter asbestos concrete. This is a very old one. Usually we don't use asbestos concrete. We have to upgrade to 450 millimeter diameter pipe that will expand sewer for development and existing properties. The cost for that one, we figured out approximately $450,000 for that. The financial implications we discussed in our note. This is a 4-year plan. This is a good grant. It's 90% from the province and the federal, and the small communities like us is a 10%. In 2020, it's 2019. Our forecasting is to use 100,000 to complete the design for the lift stations. We need 100,000 for that total cost. Then our commitment is $10,000, 90,000 coming from the grant. So then subsequent years, we plan to use 1.375 million each year until 2023.
Participant exiting.
So we have completed, we need to complete 2019 the Class A cost estimate to complete this lift station design, and then prepare the tender package and ready for 2020 fiscal year. So the district money comes from part of sewer reserves and part of DCC, because some of the projects is already included in the DCC program. As noted in the report, finance indicates borrowing is not required at this point. If you outline something about this water resource center capacity, the water resource center is designed for 4,000 cubic meter per day average daily flow and 6,000 cubic meter maximum daily flow. As of 2018, we calculated average 2018 all 12 months daily average daily flow. It came around 2,330 cubic meter, including Seychelles Indian government band flows. So the Seychelles Indian government current flows were determined as per their reporting is 220 cubic meter to date. The total reserved capacity from them, we reserved from them for 550 cubic meter average daily flow as per agreement with the Seychelles Indian government. Area AO2 and AO6 expected to add the current project 122 cubic meter ADF, and expected available capacity 1,218 ADF. This project will increase demand by another 130 cubic meter average daily flow, leaving 1,080 cubic meter. For future growth and future service connection for existing properties, that is approximately more than 1,300 residential units. Currently, we are experiencing about 25% infiltration and inflow. It's called INI. That is nearly a 575 cubic meter fresh water leaking into our system. In 2019, staff is planning to sewer modeling. That includes installation of several flow meters at different neighborhood directions to figure out which sections is getting more infiltration. And then we are planning how to mitigate that infiltration that will increase our capacity and more available capacity for future expansion.
Thank you very much. That's a very thorough report. Any questions from council? Councillor Toth?
Thank you. Looking at the draft financial plan that we were given before Christmas, is that part of what's referenced in here? Page 102 and 103, if you have it there. Otherwise, it's there's a carry forward project for sewer expansion for 919,000, and then AO2 and AO6 for a total of 4.1 in the budget document. Is that part of this?
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, no, this is the project on page 80 of the budget book. It's the $12.5 million project that was referenced in the book. At the time, that was what was thought we should put an application in for. It was a little more aggressive as far as the timing goes. So after reviewing it, the engineering staff came back with a slightly less aggressive total project and a less aggressive time frame. So that project is now down at $5.6 million over 4 years. So it would replace what's in there, that $12.5 million project that's on page 80 in the book.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Lamb, do you have any questions on this? Is he still with us? He's gone? Okay. Any other questions from any of the other councillors? Okay. So we have two recommendations in front of us. One is to allow staff to actually apply for the grant. And then as part of that grant, we have to commit our portion of the funds for the project. It's required for them to approve us. So what's the will of council? Councillor Lamb, are you there? No voice from above? Okay. What would council like to do? We have motion 2. The council directs staff to apply for a grant opportunity to Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, rural and northern communities to expand the existing sanitary sewer network into sewer infill areas in West Porpoise Bay and West Sechelt and upgrade the existing or the aging infrastructure.
I move that we move ahead with option 2 and 3.
Okay, so recommendation 3, the council commit to funding this project using a combination of sewer reserves and DCC funds as applicable to cover its 10% portion, $560,000 of the costs for this project, with the other 90%, $5.04 million, coming from the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, rural and northern communities for a total project amount of $5.6 million. Would someone like to second those motions? Seconded. Any questions? Discussion? Although, yep, go ahead, Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'm going to support this project. However, looking at the biggest need in this community, which is water, I recognize it's not a District of Sechelt issue, but several water projects could also be applied under grants such as this. So I want to make sure that moving forward, our efforts are put squarely on the water front because that is the largest issue facing our community. But at this point, I think we're ready to go to apply for this grant. So I'll support it now, and hopefully we can get more water grants coming in the upcoming years.
And the regional district is looking at grants under this as well. Okay? All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Sanat. Let's move to item 10.1. This is the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan, Goals and Action Report for adoption. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Ms. Corbett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. So in front of you tonight is the ICSP Goals and Actions Report for adoption. It has been communicated to council and the previous planning committee in the past. This is a document that replaced the 2011 sustainability plan. It was done initially through Dillon Consultants and a multi-stakeholder advisory committee. As a result of a lot of input on that, the document was revised. We did go out in December 2018 through the Have Your Say process, which was really valuable for this project. I got some really good input on that, and the updates have reflected that. There were some modifications to how the vision statement was worded. There were some suggestions on some of the priorities. The feedback received, it will probably be of no surprise to anyone who has campaigned. The number one issue that came up from the input received was water being the biggest concern, and in particular, growth occurring while water shortages are occurring. The second comment was around housing affordability and the need for a range of options along the whole continuum. It was mentioned from some employers that this is now a recruitment issue for them. With development, two main issues mentioned. One, the lack of capacity, not only water, but transportation. And the second one being the failure of the district to follow its OCP and zoning. That came out quite a bit. The need for improved data, a lot of analysis to base some of these findings on. The need for economic development opportunities. So the Goals and Actions report provides a framework for addressing a lot of these issues. It will help us move toward that. Of course, the key challenge is always in implementation and getting a shared commitment from both the district, the region, and the general public to move this forward. So we are recommending it for adoption. The next steps, we would put this on our web page so that members of the advisory committee and interested members of the public can access it. We will be completing the process with FCM regarding the grant that contributed to this. And also as part of this, there is a sustainability checklist attached to this document. Upon adoption, planning staff will then utilize the sustainability checklist when we're reviewing development applications with rezoning and OCP amendments that would form part of the package coming to you. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before I turn to council for questions, I just want to commend the Director of Planning.
Welcome to TELUS Conferencing. To join the conference, enter your access code followed by the number sign.
It's okay. It's very interesting.
At the tone, please state your name, followed by the number sign. You are currently the only participant in this conference.
Okay, thank you. So, back to this. I want to commend the Director of Planning Development. I know that the form that this plan came back to us in was not something that would be easy to implement. So you put a lot of time and effort into it to get it into this form, to actually have it be a tool that we can use to move forward. So I want to say thank you for that. So turn to council. Any questions? I'm going to beat you to it then. I have two. You mentioned the sustainability checklist. So would something come back, or would we automatically, by passing this or adopting this, would that automatically be something that's implemented?
We have a sustainability checklist in place right now, so we continue to utilize the sustainability checklist in the same way we do. This replaces it. So we have one based on the 2011 plan. I haven't found it to be particularly robust. So this aligned a lot more with both the ICSP and the OCP. So I think it would give better input to decision makers on, you know, how far is this proposal meeting those kind of things. So we'd continue to utilize it.
Right. And then the other one that's mentioned in here is dark skies.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we aren't formally a part of the, like we don't have a dark skies designation. By adopting this, would we then be pursuing dark skies designation? I know there's interest in the community.
We could. It's actually in the OCP, so there's no barrier there except to move forward on it. So it's certainly something we could pursue.
Perfect. All right. Any questions by councillors? Councillor McLean?
Yeah, more of a comment. I think this is going to be really big for Sechelt. I'm really looking forward to see what the sustainability checklist will achieve, but I don't know what that will look like. So I'd like to see some kind of review on this in a year, particularly around the sustainability checklist, to see if it is working for us, if it's meeting the goals. Like I said, it could be really good. I could also see some challenges with it. Only way to know is to try it, I think. So I want to try it and review it in a year.
Okay, so recommendation number 2 is that the District of Sechelt Integrated Community Sustainability Plan, the ICSP Goals and Action Report be adopted. Someone like to make that recommendation? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much. Item 10.2. This is on page 70 in the package. First recommendation, that the report from the building official dated January 3rd, 2019 regarding building bylaw contravention at 5663 Salmon Drive be received. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And did you want to speak to this? I don't know if it would be the corporate officer speaking to this or it's Director Plan. Okay, thank you.
Just very generally, I did give you an overview of just what the notice on title is. So if there are any questions around that, I think the reports are fairly straightforward. In a lot of cases with notice on title, we don't need to go further. It's we usually do receive compliance on it. For others, there is actually a kind of a graduated approach on that. We have been in discussion with our legal counsel on a couple of items related to these. So there's a very distinct process on that. It would be one we would keep council advised of.
Thank you. Corporate officer?
Your Worship, because this is a quasi-hearing under the legislation, it would be appropriate to just ask if the owner or a representative of the owner is in the gallery and would like to speak.
Yes. So is the owner or representative of the owner of 5663 Salmon Drive in the gallery? Of the galley? You don't have ours in the gallery? And would you like to speak? No one stepping forward. So recommendation number 2. Someone like to make recommendation number 2? Moved and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor? Thank you. Move to item 10.3. First, a motion to receive this report. This is regarding building bylaw contravention at 4774 Sunshine Coast Highway. Moved and seconded. All in favor? And the recommendation number 2, that the corporate officer be directed to file notice. Moved by?
Can I discuss?
Yes, but let's put it on the floor
Okay,
first.
sure.
Okay? Moved and seconded? Okay, any discussion? Councillor McLean.
So this seems to be a much more complicated one than the other two. There seem to be a variety of issues with this property stemming around the lack of a building permit. My largest concern is that we have not issued occupancy for this public building, or a building that's occupied by the public. How did that happen? And yeah, how can the public occupy a building that we haven't given occupancy to?
Okay, so are you asking staff for
Yes.
a process that's been followed to get to this point, or steps we've taken to deal with this?
Yeah, asking, what steps have been taken so far?
Thank you.
Through the chair, there has been a lot of process around this particular item. It pertains to both the building bylaw. They have reached compliance on a number of items. There are 2 or 3 outstanding ones related to the building bylaw. There is one related to the building code, there's one related to development variance permit, there's one related to development permit, and there's one related to the business license. So this notice on title addresses 2 of those. The issues related to the bylaw are not health and safety related in terms of there is a, if it was something that was impacting the staff, there would be a different approach on that. It is related to, on one particular one, fairly minor, but it is the combination of issues that has created some concerns for us. So we have had a lot of advice on how to move forward. We do have a plan in place. Both the leasee and the owner have been apprised of that, and I delivered that in writing to them in the fall of last year as to the processes we'll be going through. This is the first one that is required before we move forward on the others.
Okay. So before we proceed, is there the owner or representative of the owner in the gallery who'd like to speak to this matter? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you. I'd like to make a further motion on this one. Given that this has been in process for over 2 years, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to take steps that are needed to bring this into compliance or follow legal process as required. And I'd look for a seconder for that motion. Thank you. Any questions about that? Councillor Toth.
It's not a question so much as a comment, but as a small business owner who just renewed his business license, I find it shocking that they've been able to operate for the last 1.5 years. That's all I have to say about it. It's just, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, that reminds me of another comment about the business license aspect of this, is that the fee for a business license is $125. The fee for not having a business license is $100. The fine, thank you. That seems like a bit of an issue, and it's something that we should look into.
I think that fine could be per day, or yes?
Oh, it's per day.
Yes, okay. Any other comments on this one? All those in favor? Thank you very much. 10.3. Sorry, 10.4. We just did 10.3. 10.4. This is for 5918 Sunshine Coast Highway. Let's do this first. As the owner or representative of the owner in the gallery? Okay, so I'd like a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And recommendation number 2, that the corporate officer be directed to file notice in the land title office. And someone like to move that recommendation? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Sorry? Yes, sorry. Yes, you identified before. There's one correction on this. It's the PID is incorrect.
That's correct. So the PID should read, instead of 057 at the very beginning, it should be 027. So we have updated that on the notices, so what goes forward to land titles will be corrected. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion then should be that the corporate officer be directed to file notice in land title office against 5918 Sunshine Coast Highway, legally known as Lot A, District Lot 1331, Plan BCP 30267, PID 027 127362. Okay, do we need to, you're good? Okay. So all those in favor? Thank you. And I think this is what our two gentlemen in the front row are waiting for. Number 10.5. So first, a motion to receive the report. This is for Sunshine Coast Air Limited land lease at the Sunshine Coast Regional Airport, Sechelt Aerodrome. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And Mr. Curry is coming forward to speak to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. My report today brings forward a request from the Sunshine Coast Air for a lease at the district's aerodrome. Sunshine Coast Air has requested up to 2,400 square feet of land for a commercial space of a trailer to function as a secure passenger assembly facility for arrivals and departures. In addition, Sunshine Coast Air has requested a letter of no objection to be submitted to Transport Canada as part of the approval for their sublease as a subbase at the aerodrome. The land that is recommended for lease around the current parking area is in close proximity to the fence and the gate. If the request is supported, the exact location will be determined within the next week. We have two representatives here for Sunshine Coast Air if there are any questions regarding specific operations. Staff support the request and recommend that Council provide direction to begin lease negotiations and authorize the district to enter into a 5-year lease with an option to renew for an additional 5 years. That provides a summary of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, I have one question with regards to the lease. If I go to the lease on page 85, this is Article 1, 1.1D and I. D talks about the area of 2,400 square feet, and it would be identified on the drawings. And then I talks about permitted use. So it's the office trailer would be used as a passenger assembly lounge, operator administration, and aircraft support space. Where do we have them parking their plane? Is that in the 2,400, and is that identified in here?
No, they will not be able to bring the plane close to this space. So this they would be leasing a tie-down space for the plane for the short term, okay, with potentially building a hangar in the long term.
Okay. That was my only question with this. Any questions by any other councillors? Councillor Scott.
On the map that shows the requested areas, maybe Josh, you can answer this. Is it a specific requirement that you needed to straddle airside access?
No, just preferred.
Just preferred.
Yeah.
Because there's really not any great spots there, and that gate under the blue is important to keep. So I wouldn't recommend that we put it there. I would say the best spot is the one just adjacent to the parking lot to the east of Flies is probably the cheapest way to set it up, but it doesn't really give you airside access except through the man gate. Would that be a big issue?
No, I think post-report with the visit to the aerodrome with Ben, Jerry and myself decided that was probably our first thing. So.
Yeah, I think that makes most sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, yeah.
Any other comments or questions by council? So we have two recommendations in front of us. One is that council provide a letter of no objection to support this application, and that we authorize staff to negotiate and sign a 5-year lease. What's the will of council? Move both? And second? Okay. All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Could stay till the end of the meeting. So item 10.6, this is the ICIP Community Culture and Recreation Program. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor? And were you planning on speaking to this, please? We figured you were here for tonight for that, Perry.
So before you is a report seeking council's permission to allow staff to apply for a grant. This is a new grant opportunity that became known to us in October of last year, and it's a partnership between the province and the federal government in providing funding for capital infrastructure projects that specifically improve access and or quality to community culture and recreation infrastructure. We are proposing to make an application to this grant program in order to create a accessible outdoor performance space in Hackett Park. And we're coming to you this evening because the grant application is due very soon, and a requirement of the grant application is that the municipality show evidence of having at minimum 26.67% of the estimated expenses, and also council approval to actually move forward with the project. It's a project that both Parks and Culture are working on together, and so Perry and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions by council? Councillor McLean.
Just as putting together the numbers for this, there's a lot missing in this report. So the key question I have is operating costs. How much will this thing cost to operate? And what is involved with operating a stage?
The plan is to use materials that would need very little maintenance, so there will be some inspection costs and potential annual maintenance costs to it, but we don't see a lot of operating costs in maintaining this facility.
Any other questions? I mean, a couple things. One comment, first of all, I know that this came up in the Parks Master Plan, that this was something that the community was looking for. So, you know, kudos to you for bringing this forward. The other is that the Rotary Club, one of the Rotary Clubs, I don't remember which one, had also come forward, I believe, last year, and we're talking about potentially putting some funding towards this. If they were to, I don't know if they have funds left because of other things that have come up, if they were to come forward with some funds, could that be part of our share towards this program?
I think we need to check with the Director of Finance on that.
Okay. And you may not...
Please press any key on your touchtone keypad to remain in conference.
I think you could probably exit the conference.
Your Worship, yeah, my understanding of most grants, as long as the district's contribution would be any funds of its own or any funds it could attract. So yes, any Rotary funds would reduce the city's contribution.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions by council? Councillor Scott.
Would this project, the funds coming for this project, our portion, would it be something that the leftover legacy community forest funds go towards?
It's possible. That's up to us.
I love the project. I think this is great. So, I mean, anything we can do to make this happen.
Okay, so we have two recommendations. Councillor McLean?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what other locations have been considered for this?
Do you want to answer that? The primary reason why we are discussing Hackett Park is because it is typically the place where most of our festivals and events currently take place in terms of compared to other municipal parks that we have. It was clearly identified within the new Parks Master Plan that that is where the community would like to see us continue to invest in order to encourage further community gatherings and events and festivals to take place, is to happen in that park. We have had set up temporary smaller stages in other locations, but this park does also already have infrastructure in place, such as a concession stand and public washrooms and power, and it's proven to be a quite successful location for events. I'm not sure if you'd like to say something else.
Yeah, I'd like to add that one of the criteria for the grant is that it has to be fully accessible, and Hackett Park already has the accessible pathway, has accessible washrooms, and it's centrally located, so it's accessible by transit as well as auto, and because of it being right in the village core, it can easily be people can actually walk to the park easily as well. It's really a central hub, and you know, even the Sun Coaster Trail will be going right by Hackett Park. So that was one of the main reasons. You're also aware that we've been setting up a temporary stage in the spot that we've targeted for this permanent stage for a number of years for Canada Day, and also for the Arts and Craft Fair, and you know, bringing the stage in and out is extremely difficult. It's a pretty rudimentary stage. The plans for this stage is to have something very attractive that would be a really big contribution to the community.
Councillor Scott?
Just for positioning wise, you're going to use that natural slope as part of the amphitheater for the seating area?
Yes.
And what is the plan for parking? Like how many people do you think this would seat, and where do you foresee all the parking being for this?
The parking is mostly up on the upper tier of Hackett Park. There's quite a bit of parking surrounding the sports fields and neighboring streets, and there's we did put in an accessible path from the upper field to the lower field a few years ago, so it's quite accessible by vehicle as well.
Okay, so you're comfortable that there's enough there to support the size of the venue? Okay.
Yeah, it's I've seen thousands of people in that venue on Canada Day, literally thousands of people. It's the washroom that was built by the Seashell Rotary Club in that park is it was overbuilt. It's got so many stalls that it can handle literally thousands of people. And we did just do a big improvement, or worked with the Sunshine Coast Rotary Club, or also known as the Rotary Club of the Sunshine Coast, and they just repaired all the and upgraded all the playground equipment in that park, which was one of the things that was highlighted in the Parks Master Plan as well. So this park has a lot of potential. There's a lot suggested in the Parks Master Plan, and I would like to see a master plan for that park before we go ahead and do anything. But this piece is a very solid piece with a very good plan in place, and we know exactly where it would fit into the whole park.
Okay, I had a question about page 108. Number 8, it does indicate that we'd have dedicated space for annual events hosted by and or supported by the District of Seashell, including the Summer Music Series. Do you see the Summer Music Series then moving from this space out here over to Hackett?
Yes, we do anticipate that we would make attempts to encourage and focus community gatherings to take place there, including our own, such as the Summer Music Series.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see how that works. All right. So we have some recommendations in front of us. Again, as before, the first is to direct staff to submit the application for the grant funding, and then the second is to commit our share of the funds to the project. If we do not get the funds, if we do not get the grant, then we would typically not move forward with the project. Is that correct? Okay. Would anybody like to make recommendations 2 and 3? You said yes?
Your worship, if you wanted to move forward with the project, you'd have to identify a different funding source at that point.
Yes, okay, I get what you're saying, yes. Moved for number 2 and 3. And would someone like to second that? Second? Any other questions, comments? All those in, Councillor McLean?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think I'm going to be voting against this. Reason being, I don't think it's quite ready. I want to see us get that plan for Hackett Park and think about how this fits into the larger system. My big concern is that we already have a stage at Rockwood that is severely underused. I do not want that to happen again. So I want to make sure that we are doing our full due diligence and putting a solid amount of work into this, and I don't think we're quite there yet. So support this in the future, just I don't think it's ready yet.
Okay.
Can I add a bit of information to that? Just so in case you weren't aware, we don't actually own the stage at Rockwood. It does belong to the Festival of the Written Arts, and they lease the land from us, and so they have full control over who can and cannot use that stage. A performance stage at Hackett Park would be accessible to everyone, in theory, 365 days a year. So you might not want to stand out in the snow and watch a concert, but we would be able to provide access to the public in a way that the stage at Rockwood is not currently accessible to the public.
Okay, any other comments? So all those in favor? All those opposed? Would you like your vote recorded? Okay, thank you. So 10.7, page 112, first a motion to receive. This is for the 2019 Sechelt Arts Festival federal grant application. Motion to receive, second. All those in favor? Thank you. And Ms. Smith.
So before you is a report that we've been bringing to council every year for probably 7 years now, and it is to seek confirmation of municipal support for the Sechelt Arts Festival. This is a requirement of a particular grant that the Sechelt Arts Festival applies for from Heritage Canada, and you'll see at the end of the report there's an attachment. And so staff are seeking council permission to commit to this and sign off on the support that we would be providing for Sechelt Arts Festival in the 2019 budget.
Any questions? Okay, would someone like to make recommendation number 2? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Now we move to 10.8, which I think a number of people in the community or in the gallery are waiting for. So first, a motion to receive the report. This is for the Sunshine Coast Community Forest Legacy Fund. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Corporate Officer.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report in front of you are recommendations that we've received from the Sunshine Coast Community Forest Legacy Fund Assessment Committee for dispersal of monies from the Sunshine Coast Community Forest Legacy Fund. Attached to my report is correspondence, 2 separate pieces of correspondence that we have received from the chair, Peter Moonen. I would also like to note that the recommendation 2 that you see in front of you includes all the recommendations that we have received that is being forwarded to council from the assessment committee. That said, they're there for easy reference and easy to deal with, but council may choose to approve all of them or some of them or something completely different. And I guess the only other thing to point out is that the assessment committee has also included a brief summary of each of the applications, and the actual applications are attached. Also attached is a legacy fund application procedures and evaluation criteria that the assessment committee uses. And I guess I would also note that Peter Moonen, the chair, is in the gallery should council have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we're going to move through this one at a time, so that if there are any questions on any particular ones we could actually have Peter come to the microphone at that point. So what would you like to, is there anything about the first application, Nicholas Sontag Marine Education Center, that they be granted $35,000 for installation of a solar array? Are there any questions by council on that one? Would someone like to move that they receive their $35,000 grant? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Number 2, Sechelt Seniors Activity Center. We granted $100,000 for renovation expansion project. Any questions? Would someone like to make that motion? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Number 3, Sunshine Coast Baseball Association. We granted $20,000 for a new batting cage. Can adults use this too? Yes? Awesome. Okay. Any questions? So would someone like to move that? Okay. Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Number 4, Siaya Reconciliation Project. We granted $10,000 for additional funding of totem carving project. Any questions? Who would like to move that one? Moved and second. All in favor? Thank you. Number 5, Sunshine Coast Fastball League. Be granted $50,000 for safety upgrades at Hackett Park. Any questions on this one? Councillor McLean.
Question for our parks manager. Any staff, have the District of Sechelt reviewed these plans for higher backstops at Hackett Park? And did they resolve the issue that was brought forward last year?
I've totally looked at the plans for the backstop. I think of it as a huge batting cage itself. This backstop will go all the way to third base and to first base and be 20 feet high, and it will also have a bit of a slope at the top as well. So it'll catch most of the balls. There may still be the odd stray ball, but the ones that would leave the park, their trajectory would not be in the path of neighboring homes.
Any other questions about this one? So would someone like to move this one? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Number 6, Sunshine Coast Salmonid Enhancement Society. We granted $30,500 for a well assessment hydrologic study. Any questions? Would someone like to move this one? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And number 7, Gibson's Marine Rescue Society. We granted $80,000 to acquire or relocate a new boathouse. Any questions? Someone like to move this? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you to the Sunshine Coast Community Forest Legacy Fund members for your work on this. I know we've read through all of the documents, but I know you had, according to you must have had a ton of them. So thank you for the effort and the time you put in. Appreciate it. Item 10.9 we've done. Let's go to 10.10. So this is policy number 1.5.17, exempt staff compensation, emergency operations center, overtime hours. Page 265. First, a motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor? And CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a basic policy that would allow us to pay the exempt staff overtime monies for any hours worked in an emergency operations center should an emergency management British Columbia event be activated. It gives us, without this policy, we don't have the ability to go to EMBC for reimbursement for those hours, and this policy allows for that.
Thank you. So if we enact or put in place an emergency operations center and we do not have this policy in place, we cover the cost of this, of our staff that actually work there, okay? Any questions? All right, so who would like to move recommendation number 2? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you very much. So now we're moving to councillor reports.
Yeah, we got one more.
We got one more?
Release of items. No, you got it.
Got ya. Yeah. Councillor reports, 11.1. We started on that end last time? That end last time? Okay. Councillor Kuster.
It seems like it's been a long time since we've been here, but I just want to say, just before Christmas, we had as a council, we went out for dinner with the Sechelt Nation, some of the councillors there, and it was a great night just to get to know everyone and talk. When we came back from holidays, myself, the mayor, and Alton went to the downtown revitalization community meeting where we met with some developers and architects with respect to Cowrie Street, and that was enlightening, and I enjoyed that. And last Thursday, we had a meeting with the residents of Sea-Watch. For me, that was a very emotional meeting, and I learned a lot, and it was good for me to, and I think for all of us to see how put ourselves in the positions of those residents, and I really appreciated Darnelda setting that up. And that's it for my report.
All right. Councillor McLean.
Thank you. So I've had a couple meetings recently with the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society, looking to bridge connections between their group and our council. They're a really good group of people who are really working hard on 2 projects in Gibsons. One smaller development on a laneway and one larger in Upper Gibsons. So I'm looking to continue that relationship so we can work to get more affordable housing in our community. The one thing I wanted to bring from them is they're going to be bringing some fundraising efforts in the upcoming months to pay for their Franklin Road project. So that's going to be a really great opportunity that the community members can contribute to our affordable housing crisis on the Sunshine Coast. One other one I want to speak to is the Restorative Justice AGM. That is an amazing group. You have these people in this community who are getting trained to work with some very vulnerable people and really tough situations. And I just want to thank them for all the work that they're doing. And the really cool thing is that this past weekend, they are taking an advanced restorative justice training program. They're going to be one of, I believe, 7 communities in BC, and BC is the leader for this, who have this advanced level of training. I believe 15 people did that from the Sunshine Coast. So we're going to have that resource in our community. And I'm so excited to see what they can do with that higher level of training now. And I think that's all I'm going to report on.
Councillor Rowe.
I echo Janice's thought that it feels like a long time since we've been here and given reports. Other than Christmas and holidays and starting a new job, most of my time has been spent at the SCRD doing further orientation and strategic planning. At the end of last week.
Please press any key on your touchtone keypad to remain in conference.
And I just have to say that I'm really optimistic by what I saw during that strategic planning for the SCRD. I think we have a really, really strong board that is dedicated at working together, not just within their own bubble. So I'm really looking forward to continuing that work. I was also at the meeting with the that we had with the Sea-Watch residents and helping support the mayor in work going forward around coming to some sort of resolution on this issue that's very difficult. So I appreciate all the residents that were there, and I realize it's a very, very small portion of our community that's affected, but they are part of our community. So I want to thank everybody for coming out to that and for council for being there. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that's gone on since Christmas, we were there as a council. Sea-Watch was definitely a big part of the forefront. There was another meeting that was attended by the mayor and Alton and myself with a couple of the residents earlier on when the sinkhole was first discovered. It's interesting, Matt talks about the restorative justice, and they were at our second meeting, and it was neat to see the work. I actually hadn't sat through any meetings with restorative justice before, so it was quite interesting to see the flow and the pattern, and look forward to seeing what the next level of training gets them to. I echo Brenda's and everybody's comments on looking forward to a resolution in Sea-Watch and finding a path to whatever decision that ends up being to bring it to resolution.
Councillor Toth.
Thank you. Yeah, SCRD orientation. This last weekend, Friday evening and all day Saturday was SCRD strategic planning. And yeah, that was long, but that was really productive. As has been mentioned, we met with residents of Sea-Watch, and restorative justice sort of hosted that. I too hadn't seen restorative justice in action, and it was good to have them there. There were a lot of, there's a lot of emotions around it, obviously, and a lot of pain and confusion, and I think the get-together, the meeting would have probably been different if they weren't there. Just last night as well, we also met with representatives of most of the community associations and talking about how we can collaborate and engage with them more. And then one other thing I want to mention is that Canada Day planning is starting tomorrow, and it's been a partnership between the Downtown Business Association, the District of Sechelt, and the Sechelt Farmers and Artisans Market. And it's been sort of the go-to Canada Day event on the coast for many years now. We're always in need of volunteers. We're always in need of committee members to help us put it together, and people can get in touch with me or Siobhan if they want to get involved. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm not going to mention all of the other things you guys have already mentioned. I want to say thank you to council, though, for stepping in to that meeting. I mean, as you've indicated, some of you have never experienced that before, and so just to trust and come in and be there, it takes something. So thank you for that. I'm going to mention a couple of other events and things that have happened before Christmas. The CATS program, so the Community Action Team, concerned for drug users in the community. So they wanted to provide an opportunity to reach out to them and let them know of some of the supports that they have available to them. So they actually held an open house here in this room, and they had 24 people come, and they were thrilled with being able to reach that number in the community. And they're looking to do a few more of these again. It's a completely safe environment for them to come. The hope is that they have resources available to them for should they need them at any point, whether it be for drug testing, etc. There will be, I believe I'm going to be trained in using the Noxolone kit in the next while. We're bringing in Mayor Beamish, I believe, is going to join us, and Lori Pratt. So we're all going to be trained, and I believe it's going to be a media event of some sort. We're looking to heighten the awareness in the community. Before Christmas, I went down to Gibson's. A number of the churches in Gibson's got together and put on a Christmas supper. Peter was there in the kitchen. A lot of people came through, and I just enjoyed it. I got there and ended up wrapping presents right away because they gather presents for the children. Anybody in the it's open to anybody in the community from up and down the coast, and we just kept turning over the tables. I think it was a good time. Everybody had music was there. There was one fellow who, when the choir sat down, he said, "Can I go play now?" So he went up and grabbed the guitar and started playing. So it was a lot of fun. I attended the Legion Levy and got introduced to the new executive. January 1st is the new executive. So they were all there, invited us all in. They have, is it moose milk or something? Very strong. You have to watch that. Then there's Bill Beamish, Lori Pratt, and I were invited to come and meet with a group that are looking to take advantage of the new program that the federal government brought out around Entrepreneur Investment Pilot Program. This brings immigrants to our country. There are certain criteria that they have to fulfill, and at the end of that, they can get or can apply for Canadian citizenship. So one of the comments that we had that was mentioned at the end was that there was the first time that we had all the three local governments at the table with economic development and a couple of the local business people, and we talked about the coast. It wasn't a focus on Gibson's or Sechelt. We talked about the coast, and we talked about everything from housing needs to workforce housing to businesses that could come here anywhere up and down the coast. We talked about hotels. We talked about destination tourism. Like we had a list, probably about 20 different things that they could then go away and look at how it would meet with or work with the people that they would be looking to bring here. They indicated that they're working with about 600 families. These are middle income, educated, and they're not looking to bring 600 to the Sunshine Coast. Somebody commented on that on one of the posts we did. But they're looking at bringing 600 to BC. So that would be all over BC. The municipalities have a role to play in that, so does economic development, our regional economic development organization. So together we're looking at how we can support our communities. Then I attended a session, emergency training for elected officials. Very timely. That was just after Christmas. That was put on by the Justice Institute. And probably during the strategic planning, I got to leave the strategic planning for a short period of time, and the clerk and I, corporate officer, clerk in that, it was like a medieval ceremony. So we were with the 2963rd Seaforth Highlanders. It was civic recognition. It used to be freedom of the city in years past. So they come and they bang on the door, and the clerk answers the door and said, "Who goes there?" And we do this whole exercise, and then they had a parade down the street. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So thank you for taking part in that. Two final things. Forestry Webinar 101. So given that there's new councils and new boards across the province, the Ministry of Forests has put together this webinar. Our region, the coast, was the first to actually take part in this. So it was looking at, what are all the different departments? What do they do? How do we work with them? So it was just kind of a basic primer on forestry. So we've gotten some contacts in there, and we're looking at, we have some questions that we'll be moving forward. And then the final one is the Siaya blanket exercise. So there's a lot of work being done right now around reconciliation on the Sunshine Coast. And so the Siaya movement has actually reached out to the local governments to invite the elected officials and staff to take part in a blanket exercise. The blanket exercise is actually an experiential exercise where it walks us through the history from the Native perspective. So what has it been like, all of the stuff we were never taught in school, what is it like from their perspective? And they'll be approaching the district of Sechelt to do one here, and there's a few other events that'll be happening this month. So it's all about developing a common understanding and creating and building the relationship. And that's what we're looking at doing, because we're working together, we're growing together. So it's an opportunity for us to reach out to them and learn from them. So I think that's my report. It's long enough for that one. I'm going to do the SCRD report. I passed this out to council, and I've given it to the recording secretary. So the SCRD report, I'm going to talk about the Planning and Community Development Committee meeting of January 10th. So a couple of things that came up there. The first was about fire departments. So if you want to know about the fire departments, there's about a 200-page report in there. They hired Dave Mitchell and Associates. And what you need to know before I get into this piece is Dave Mitchell and Associates, there are 3 people who basically run the company. They're the top 3 people. Well, 2 live on the Sunshine Coast. So when they were hired to come and do the strategic plan for the fire department, they said, this is our community. So they went way beyond that, and they did a complete assessment of the fire departments on the Sunshine Coast. Where this impacts Sechelt is, Sechelt has a mutual aid agreement with the other fire departments. So whatever happens in the other fire departments impacts Sechelt and vice versa. So the SCRD is responsible for 4 fire departments: Egmont, Gibsons, Half Moon Bay, and Roberts Creek. So over the past year, the fire chiefs worked collaboratively with retired Sechelt Fire Chief Bill Higgs and Dave Mitchell and Associates on developing their strategic plan. So if they look back over the period from 2009 to present, each fire department has responded to an ever-increasing volume of calls. A few years back, the ambulance service requested that the fire departments also take on first medical response. So that's something else that's helping to build up their call volumes. So growing call volumes, along with the increasing complexity of the regulatory requirements for training, operations, and occupational health and safety, will require an increased level of support from the SCRD. Then there's also a need to ensure that the SCRD fire departments are fully in compliance with the requirements of WorkSafe BC and the provincial playbook. So a few years back, I was on the regional district prior to this last term. The provincial playbook was brought out, and under that, the SCRD designates each department's training and operational level. So they might say that this fire department is going to be exterior only. This one will be interior. But each level in this playbook requires different levels of training. So the firefighters then have to take and document that they've taken the required training as per that playbook, not only to ensure their safety when deployed, but to ensure that when they get on site, they know what and how to deal with whatever the situation is they're on site. So what was found during this assessment was that the documentation needs work. While the firefighters might be trained, not all of the training that they've done has been documented or documented accurately. So also, operating guidelines need to be updated. Then, in the natural progression of a fire hall, typically starts out using all volunteers. What we found is, as the level of calls and the types of call increase, they typically transition to having a career fire chief. So given recent retirements in Half Moon Bay and Roberts Creek, it seemed a good time to transition to a career fire chief in each. And so you'll see information coming out about that. In the strategic plan, there were 45 recommendations. For example, when these firefighters get together from various fire halls on one incident, there needs to be some way to identify the training that each one of the firefighters has had. Because if somebody has to go interior, right, they have to go into the building, they need to have that training. How does the person who's the incident commander from a different fire hall know what kind of training they have? So those are the types of things, there's 45 different pieces in this that are critical, important, so they have to look at how they move those forward. What they recommended was that a manager of protective services position be created, which would combine the emergency program coordinator position that's vacant with a new role to ensure that all this stuff gets done. That new position was not supported at this time. However, they're going to look at a 3-year service plan for each of the fire departments and bring it back for consideration. One thing that it's important to note is that insurance rates for residential property in any community is impacted by the level of service provided by a fire department. So the fire departments on the Sunshine Coast have increased their ratings, and that has substantially reduced the cost of insurance to those properties within their service areas with access to fire hydrants. And you can actually see the difference in the cost of insurance, whether there's a fire hydrant there or not. So that report, I mean, there's lots more information in there. Really, it's a long read, but it's a very good read. They also received a report that reviewed the SCRD emergency plan. This plan, because Sechelt and Gibson's both pay into this, it's going to be coming forward to a future District of Sechelt meeting for review. So everybody will have a copy of that here. It'll be in our agenda package. For staffs, SCRD involvement in the Joint Child Care Planning Grant was approved. The development, this is not in our area, but I know you'll be interested, the development variance permit for Persephone and the proposed liquor license endorsement and picnic area was approved. And then the SCRD voted at committee to renew some of the recreation sites and trails agreement. 2 that they agreed to approve were for Big Tree Trail for a period of 5 years. And then they requested an extension to consider the renewal of the agreement for Sprott Kids Park. They voted to decline renewing the agreement for Klein Lake Recreation Site and for Secret Cove Falls Trail. The Egmont Community Club has been managing the Klein Lake Campground since 2010, so they're going to continue to do that, so the SCRD is stepping back from that one. And then Homesite Creek Falls Recreation Site has expressed interest in adding Secret Cove Falls Site to their management and maintenance agreement. So the SCRD is not going to be continuing on with that one. So continue on with the one. They are looking at, there have been organizations that have come forward and expressed interest in Sprott Kids. They want to explore that first before they sign a 5-year agreement. One other thing that happened at Sunshine Coast at the SCRD was the Regional Hospital District inaugural board meeting. So Lori Pratt was elected as chair with Donna McMahon as the vice chair. And then the meeting that followed provided an overview of the organizational structure of the health authority, because it's a new board, the funding process, and the capital investments that are approved and proposed. Johan Murray, Regional Director for Capital Planning, and Lauren Tyndall, Director, Sunshine Coast, Vancouver Coastal Health, presented. That's the SCRD report. Thank you for your patience in all of that. So let's move to 12.1. This is release of items from closed meeting. So would someone like to make the recommendation 1, subsections 1 and 2? This is that John Bevington and Meredith Stewart be appointed to the District of Sechelt Community Investment Program Grant Committee, and that staff be directed to tender a request for proposal for the management of the Sechelt Visitor Information Center for a 1-year term with the same hours of operation as under the previous contract, and that the Visitor Information Center be closed until a new contract is negotiated. Moved and seconded. All those in favor of release? Thank you. I'll move to council correspondence. Item 12.2 on page 269. First, a motion to receive the correspondence. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And any direction that we'd like to give to staff? Councillor McLean.
On number 2, the letter on short-term rentals, I'm wondering if staff can put together a report for us about any bylaw complaints they have received about short-term rentals.
Okay, so bylaw complaints. There are some things in here that they're talking about the business licenses, the deposits, etc. I think that all kind of comes together. So I'm going to direct this to the corporate officer, or not the corporate, the CAO first.
I think the planner may be better able to respond to this because it's something that the department's been working on
They're
for
working
some
on it
time.
already. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. In terms of bylaw complaints, a fairly comprehensive report came before council, I believe, in November of last year. As a result of that, we did some public engagement on short-term rentals through the Have Your Say program, and based on that, we will be suggesting some bylaw amendments. We aren't proposing at this stage, there wasn't a lot of appetite to fundamentally change the short-term rentals. The concerns were twofold. One were with the ones that went beyond whole house rental. Once it goes into multiple units, it starts to commercialize the residential area, and that's a problem. And secondly was the enforcement on the weekends. So we're looking at that. The other, one of the concerns related to enforcement was we have a number of steps related to short-term rentals in our business license. The worst operators don't get business licenses. They don't apply. So it means that our bylaw enforcement can be stymied in some elements. So we want to bring some of those conditions and just repeat them into the bylaw. So it's just a little easier on our enforcement.
Okay. So the comments that are mentioned in this letter are also being taken into account? Okay, perfect, thank you. The next letter from requesting funding for a seniors planning table, I'd like to make a motion that this get referred to our Director of Finance for consideration under our budget process. And seconder? Okay, all in favor of that? Thank you very much. Any emergency items? Thank you. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you. Questions from the gallery? Yes, Pam.